everyone. I just wanted to put together something so that everybody can see how I edited some of my composites. This is the first time I've really done this to where I'm actually talking, so don't mind if I stumble a little bit through this. I do use Bridge, so I'll start out with Bridge, and I always open it up in Camera Raw. Generally, I don't edit too much in here. I just leave it kind of how it is unless it's really dark. As you can see, pretty much everything is all just standard on 0. So I usually put about 20 on the clarity, and that's about all I do. And then I'll open the image. I already have it opened over here in Photoshop. So my next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select her. So I'm going to go through, and I use the selection tool and just select as much as I can of her without being too fine point. And then I go up here to Refine Edge, and as you can see, I have all these different settings over here. So I have my radius set at 7.2. I have pretty much everything else set at 0, and the decontaminate colors at 100% with a new layer with layer mask. So what I'm going to do is you can see my mouse right here. I'm just going to start out going around her a little bit, and then I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger so that I can catch all those little hairs that are kind of around her head. And then I'm going to go down over her skirt, and this is going to catch all the spots in her skirt that I missed, but it's also going to catch all the white that's showing through her skirt, so that whenever I pull her over onto the backdrop, that you can see through that, so that it'll catch the actual background in it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, I'm going to duplicate the layer, and I'm going to put it over here into my backdrop. So as you can see, she's pretty tall, which from all of my posts you can tell I have a terrible time with sizing. But I'm going to put her in here, and I'm going to just kind of size her down to where I think she should be. And if you come up here and you hit this little button, that's going to help so that if I made her off in proportion, it'll help to proportion her right. So I'm actually going to make her a little shorter than I made her in my last one. Alright. Now one thing that you have to watch out for whenever you're using a layer mask is that it'll leave a little line behind. As you can see kind of right here in this area, you can see a line. So what we got to do is we've got to go over here and we've got to select the brush and use a black brush at 100% and then just delete this off. Just so you make sure you don't have that there. Okay, the next thing that I do is I select a little bit, usually of the background color. I try to select the sky color, so if it's, you know, a golden sky, get a little bit of the gold in there. So then I'll make a solid color. Nope. Why did I do that? Oh, okay. Alright, so you got your solid color. I'm going to bring it up above her, and I'm actually going to make a clipping mask. And then I'm going to bring this down to soft light, and I'm going to take it down to 25%. Just so that she's got a little bit of the background color in her, but not enough to overpower. And then I'm going to make a copy of the background, and I'm going to put that above her as well, and make a clipping mask out of that, and then put it on soft light. And then I'm going to take this down to 10%, just to help her blend in just a little bit more. Alright. And then I'm also going to make a curves layer. And I'm just going to kind of bring her up a little bit, make her just a hair brighter than what she was before. A lot of this is just playing around. So you just gotta get it to where you like it and then just play some more. Alright, as you can see, the light is actually coming from this side over here. So she's facing the wrong direction because my light was over on this side of her. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn her around. So basically what I like to do is I start from this side and I just kind of bring it over to where she was before and then just kind of move it back over, because if you try to do the same thing as I did before, she ends up upside down. So that doesn't work out so hot. So you just got to pay attention to her and what she looks like and just make sure she doesn't end up looking, you know, a little bit too compact. Just try to make her look normal. Okay. And I am a destructive editor, so I don't save all these layers. I end up just putting them back together again. The big thing that you have to realize too, which I forgot to do already, is you also need to save somewhere else. Because if you end up just forgetting and saving in the same spot, then you're also going to end up ruining your backdrop so that you won't be able to use it again unless you save it. And if you look at Kevin's backdrops, he only leaves it open for 24 hours. So you've got to make sure that you do save these in a different spot. And it's a good idea to save your digital backdrops in lots of places on your computer. I have it in about 4 different places. 3 on my computer, well, 2 on my computer, 1 on an external hard drive, and then I also have 1 on a online storage site too. So that way I have several different copies in case I have accidentally save over top of one of them, which I have already done. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start and edit her. And I like greater than Gatsby actions, so I've got lots of those. Now I'm going to run the Soft and Sweet foundation. And don't mind my computer, it's very slow. And as you can see, whenever it applied it, the background kind of lost a little bit of the golden color, which I don't really like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invert this, and then I'm just going to paint it onto her. Mainly because this has a little bit of a smoothing action in it. She's younger, she doesn't have any blemishes on her skin really or anything, so I really don't want to smooth her a whole lot. But it does add a little bit of smoothing, and it also adds a little bit of contrast and things to her skin. So I just kind of like that action. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some shadows. So I'm going to kind of select the area that's down and around her, which it always selects more than you really want it to, but it's okay. And I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to get rid of some of this. I just kind of want it down around the bottom of her dress so that it gives her a little bit of extra dark area. But if it doesn't get there, it's no big deal because I can go through and erase and add however I want to whenever I'm done with this. So then I'm going to go down to black because we're creating shadows. I'm going to go to gradient. Okay. Then I'm just going to play around with it until I get it to where I want it to be. So basically, whenever you're doing shadows, you want the shadows to start out dark at her and then get to being lighter further away from her. So you can also kind of disperse them a little bit. And this isn't an exact science. You don't have to do it perfect. Like I said, you can come back in and you can fix it. So I can come back in here and I can just kind of like round this out a little bit. I can also go through and I can delete a little bit of it as well. So if I don't like where it fell, I can just get rid of it. What you really want to remember is the sun's coming from up here in this corner right here, so whenever it's coming down and hitting her, you've got to think of where that shadow would be. You're not going to get too much shadow right here because the sun is coming from back here, but you might get a little bit of shadow from the wood, so you don't want to get rid of it completely. You can turn down your opacity. You can just paint on it real light. Oop. But you want it to be darker around her. And I'm going to turn this down to a 50%, maybe a little bit more. Turn it down to about 60. And then I'm going to actually create another. I'm going to duplicate that layer. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to delete off towards the back. Because like I said, closer to her you want to be darker because the shadow is going to be darkest up next to her. And it's going to be lighter further away. Then I'm going to duplicate again. I'm just going to keep doing this until I like how it looks. So and you can go back through and you can change to this one. Say you wanted to make it more. You can add a little bit more to it if you want to. But I think I like that for right now. I'm trying not to make this too long for everybody. Okay, next thing that I would do is I'm going to run another action up here that I like. It's called Purify Warmth. So it kind of just knocks down some of that color, but it also just kind of makes it more even. And it also gives it a little bit of a matte, which I like that effect. Some people do, some people don't. It's all personal preference. That's the good thing about doing composites. You can do it however you want. If you like it better warm, or you like it better cooler, if you like it better, you know, more styled, less styled, it doesn't matter. You can do it however you want. I like this cream contrast. This is from Little Lusker. And I usually turn that down to about 40 to 50%. I also like their warm movable light, which I'm going to put it back here in this corner so that it just kind of filters down onto her. And then I'm going to just kind of get rid of a little bit of it because I don't want it to be too much on her. And especially not her back, because you got to think where that sun's coming from. It's not going to hit the back side of her because she's turned. So it's going to hit the front of her face and it's going to hit the front of her dress. I'm going to come back down here. I'm going to add a vignette with a soft spotlight. Just gives it a little bit darker. You can see now what we've got. I can also take that off the spotlight if I don't really want it, which I don't really think I need it. And because I did get rid of a little bit of the color in the background with the one action, I am going to add a little bit of a background pop so that it does give it a little bit more. I'm going to take that up to 100% because I can always drop it down on the other side. which I can also do it this way. Instead of having to select everything, I can just go ahead and invert it, and then I can come over here and I can paint it off of her. Instead of having to paint it all over the whole thing, she's a much smaller area. I don't really like it up that high, so I'm going to bring it down a little bit to about 75%. I like that pretty well. I'm going to flatten that. And I do want to add some sunbeams in, so I'm going to go to Greater Than Gatsby Light Applicator. And I want to try to make it so that that sunburst is coming from the same place that the one in the picture is. But I don't want it to be too much. I just want to leave a little bit of it open. But I do have to make it larger because it'll leave black lines if I don't. And then just let that go. And then I'm going to paint a little bit of that off because I don't really want it to all be across her face. And this is not going to be perfect. This isn't going to be exactly like the one that I posted before. Every single one of these composites I do is different. I'm going to add just a little bit more of a vignette to it. Okay, and I'm going to paint that off of her because this one does tend to get all over everything instead of just the outsides. You've got to watch that with some actions. Some actions are meant to pretty much cover the whole entire piece, and some just cover a little bit, cover the outside. You can also make your own actions as well. So, like I said, everything, you can do it however you want. And that just kind of brings her out a little bit more. It's just another, it's a colorless contrast, so it just basically gives it a little bit more dark. And I like to add just a little bit of a haze, an additional haze. Now turn that down to wherever I like it at, which for this time I think I like it around 30%. And this is where I would stop for the mom. I do make a second option, so I like to be a little bit artsy about it. So you can use KCC textures, which that's what I've been using a little bit of. My favorite so far is William. So the way these textures work is you're just going to take and you're going to put it over top of your picture, and you're going to fit it to it. Alright, and then you just go through and figure out which one you like the best. As you can see, everything that I do makes it look different. So some people might like this look more, and you can turn it down, the opacity down. I usually turn it down to about 50 anyways. So that's one look that you can go for. You can go for something like this. Usually I use soft light, so it just gives it a little bit more of a darker feel and gives it just like, well, a texture. And you can always paint it off of her if you don't like it on her skin. You can take some away, you can add some, turn up the opacity, turn down the opacity. I kind of like this hue. I think that that looks kind of cool. So for this time I'm going to go just with the soft light like I usually do. And I'm actually going to turn it down a little bit more. going to turn it down to 25%. And I'm going to take and I'm going to erase some of this off of her. So I have it about 26% opacity. I'm going to erase it. Now everybody likes to ask me about how I do the oil painting effect. I make a copy of the background and I come up here to oil paint. And you can play with all these settings. As you can see, my stylization's at 4, my cleanliness is at 2.3, scale 0.8, bristle detail is at 10, angular direction is at 300, and shine is at 1.3. This is what I usually use. The direction, I might change it a little bit here or there, because you can see, depending on what direction you go, the different effects. Actually, usually I like the direction to go from the sun down. So if the sun's on this side, I like it for it to go the other way. If it's from this side, I like it to come this way. I think it helps it to flow better. Well, obviously I'm not really fond of this overly painted look. So I usually take it and I turn it down to about 50%. I might even turn it down a little bit more, just depending on the scene. And then the same thing is with the textures. I can paint it off of her face, because if you zoom in, which I'll do that, you can see how there's just a little bit of the oil painting look on her. And actually, once you sharpen that in post-process, then it's going to be even more, and you'll notice it a lot more. So I just like to take it off of their faces. Pretty much all of it, and just leave the rest of it open, just so it gives it kind of an artistic look. And there you have it. That's how I do this.